Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today to talk about the partial solar eclipse in Scorpio that's happening on October 25th, 2022 at 3:49 a.m. Pacific time. Before I start talking about this, I'm just going to do a quick bit of business. All of my general astrology videos are based on whole sign Western astrology. If I was doing a personal chart, I would look at your chart in Placidus because that gives me some detail. But because this is addressing so many different people, I go by whole sign. Each time I talk about a sign, if I'm talking about Aries, I'm talking about your rising sign. So you want to check. If you don't know your rising sign, you're going to want to go and get your birth time, obviously your birth date and the location. And there are free birth chart calculators on the internet. That'll give you an idea because it can change by the minute. My sister had twins and they have different rising signs. So everything else is basically the same in their chart, but that makes a significant difference in how they perceive the world. If you'd like to book a reading with me, I am available. I do both angel readings, which is an intuitive reading, and I do astrology charts, primarily natal charts, natal and transit charts, past life charts, and synastry charts. And if you'd like to reach out to me, my information is below. I don't post pricing on my website. Okay, so let's talk about this partial solar eclipse. So eclipses usher in what they call fated events. I like to think of fated events as a culmination of experiences that has indicated a line of thought that offers us an opportunity to make a choice. And that's what I believe being here on the earth plane is about, making choices, each choice revealing to us our co-creation. And this partial solar eclipse is at 2 degrees Scorpio. Scorpio is all about power and control. Scorpio is governed by both Pluto and Mars. It is literally a metamorphosis, a death and a rebirth. It can be within the physical and also very much within the emotional and spiritual body. I very much think the 8th house is where we experience something rather traumatic that transforms us into the 9th house, where we revisit our beliefs and philosophies and oftentimes endeavor a new experience, a foreign concept, a foreign philosophy. So we're going to see this Scorpio. Oh, and let me go back. So what is a partial solar eclipse? It's where the moon appears to sit between the sun and the earth. Now, in astrology, we really don't talk about the earth, but if we think about the earth, it's the planet we live on. So I kind of, in this particular sense, was thinking of it sort of as there's the sun, how we project ourselves out into the world, our ego identity, the moon in between, our emotional body, how we nurture ourselves, how we nurture others, our intuition, our connection to that which is not seen but lives within us. And then the earth, which could like represent our ascendant. I just had that in my meditation this morning, that the eclipses, as they're a culmination of experiences, it's this integration of these 3 personal points that we look at as astrologers in the chart. And if we think about the ascendant representing the self as we walk on the earth, it's going to represent our physical action and our perception, because our perception is how we take our physical action. Now, let's look at the idea that this is at 2 degrees. The 2nd degree means a lot of things to me. It represents the Taurus energy. Taurus represents our money, our family history, our self-worth, and it is the sign directly opposite Scorpio. Scorpio rules other people, commingling of energies, and Taurus is about the vocalization, our voice. We have discovered ourselves in the first house, and then we really start to discover that on a physical level in the second house. So the Taurian degree is also ruled by Venus. So here we see this Venus conjunct the partial solar eclipse. They're all at 2 degrees. So this is very powerful. This is about a cooperation. This is about, yes, a commingling, but from a wise perception to allow what has been deemed negative or unpleasant to transform us by being able to see the wisdom of that. So I want to quickly go over the idea of what Scorpio represents. And then I'm going to do something interesting because I want to look at I was very much drawn to the idea that there are generational planets. When was Neptune in Scorpio? When was Pluto in Scorpio? When was Uranus in Scorpio? We have been experiencing Pluto's transit in Capricorn. We have seen tremendous change and innovation and disruption. And so I was curious as to the generational aspects. How did this play out? And I've created or looked at some dates. You may want to check it with your personal chart. But as this is a 2-degree Scorpio partial solar eclipse, I was looking between 0 and 4 degrees as a sort of a tight conjunction and influence on your life path. And any planets that are at 2 degrees Scorpio or within that range, 0 to 4 degrees in your personal chart, are going to indicate where this transformation is taking place. And it doesn't have to happen on the exact date of the eclipse. The eclipses have a 6-month influence, so it could start to tee up anywhere within the next 6 months. We also see Saturn turning direct 2 days before this eclipse. Saturn rules history in general. It rules obligatory energy. So it's not beyond me that Saturn turning direct, literally stationing, meaning slowing down in the sky, appearing to stand still as it reviews where it has been, making a square to Uranus. So anyway, because I think that this influence will reveal something over the next 6 months that will be illuminated in a unavoidable way, in a way that is this eclipse is going to, I believe, offer, especially the people that are within that 2-degree Scorpio. So if you're rising, your moon, your sun, or any of your personal planets, let alone the outer planets. And I'm going to talk about the outer planets in a bit because, again, they're generational. They move very slowly. So this would indicate a group of souls coming together as a collective to create change and to bring something back into balance. Okay, so Scorpio by nature rules sex, the commingling of energy. It rules mortgages, stocks, big banking, billionaires, joint money, issues of trust, betrayal, sexual aberration or safety. It rules the genital area of the body. It rules the anus. As well as the genitals that we think of, sexual genitals. It rules inheritances, it rules taxes, it rules psychology and intuitive gifts. It rules what is considered the occult, what is taboo, what is secretive. It rules issues of control and dominance and criminal behavior. When dominance has gotten out of control, or money has gotten out of control, or sex has gotten out of control, or the psychology of what you know has gotten out of control. But sometimes this apparent negativity or darkness offers us a deeper inner knowing that allows us to transform, that takes us into the phoenix that rises from the ashes. When I was doing my research, I was also reminded that Scorpio is ruled by the eagle. It's represented oftentimes in the tarot. And the eagle is the connection to the angelic realm. And it's an energy of high integrity, willing to see with razor sharp eyes what's going on from a broad perspective. So I believe that that Scorpio offers the purpose and the wisdom of the duality, of the contrast, of going under the human veil, giving up our power to something we deem safe on a surface level, but on a deep level, we know doesn't serve our own powerful co-creation on this planet. So I think this is super, super powerful eclipse in the fact that because it's affecting money, being connected to Venus, meaning they're all going to be at 2 degrees around 3:49 a.m. The moon will move off first, but Venus will hang out there for a little bit. So this is really giving us an opportunity to look at, how we view ourselves and our gifts. Venus rules the voice, the singing voice, but also the expression of the voice. We learn first to talk about or to speak within our family dynamic, the second house by nature, and then we move into the natural third house of Gemini and take that voice into our communities, our teammates, and our workmates. So this is a real opportunity to unearth and to allow for a transformation from a deep psychological place within you that serves a much greater opportunity for your soul to experience your deepest hopes and desires moving forward. And I don't really care what your age is, because I believe that many people who are of a certain season in life are being allowed to transform into the butterfly or the dragonfly. We don't often talk about the dragonfly, but it has a very similar but longer and more arduous metamorphosis. The dragonfly starts as the nymph in the water element, and it must endure all sorts of elements in order to transform. It's a 2-year process into the dragonfly that then is iridescent and again on the airwaves. So we're going from water to air. Let me go. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about generational planets. I was just curious about this because as I've been studying and talking and communing with spirit about astrology and how it plays with the powers of the universe, the 12 divine laws, how does this all integrate? Because oftentimes when I listen to astrologers, I feel like they're saying to me that something's happening to me, and spirit repeatedly tells me that it's not happening to me, that it is a season, it is a weather report, it is a landscape that I as a soul have chosen to walk through in order for me to experience deeper depths of my own co-creation and my awareness, and where I've given up my power under the veil of the human experience. So let's start a little bit with our baby boomers. Okay. And I don't know if they're all baby boomers, but Neptune was transiting through Scorpio from 1956 to 1970. And it was approximately in the 0 degree to 4 degree. This is the orb I'm using to give a real strong indication of opportunity here. If you have Scorpio in the later degrees, this will affect you, but not directly. It feels to me that if I'm within a 0 to 4 degree orb during this eclipse, any planet, but I'm talking about the generational ones right now because this is affecting the collective. I think this is a super powerful time to make opportunities from a new perception or from a partially new perception. Neptune by nature rules spirituality, faith, religion, escapism, addiction, dreams, delusions, seclusion, idealism, intuition, transcendence, sexual fantasy, because we're talking about Pluto, Neptune in Scorpio, secret relationships, secret money, secret power. It's an intensity it's very, Neptune is very spiritual by nature. So when it's in Scorpio, it's going to feel the more occult energies, the more deeper psychologies. It's really going to play to the transformational part. So it could get very disruptive before it transforms. In the metamorphosis from the caterpillar to the butterfly, I talked about this in a recent, the other Pluto video that I did as Pluto went direct, is I didn't realize that the caterpillar literally is ingested by an enzyme, that the hormone producing the ability to spin the cocoon then produces an enzyme that digests the body of the caterpillar and gives life to the butterfly. So we're really going to see this. So those of you that were born between October 1956 and July 1958, you have this Neptune between 0 and 4 degrees in your chart. Now, when I do go by the rising sign, this will tell you what house the transformation will be happening in, and where this opportunity over the next 6 months to be brave, to be courageous. The co-ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and I think this is an important thing to pay attention to. So I think that's great. But again, there's an intensity, and I think what the big transformation may be for those particular folks is to either release any escapism over drinking, over eating, gambling, sex, just sticking your head in the sand, hiding behind religion, hiding behind something that feels more powerful, and really allowing that to take you into a transcendent experience of realizing that your power doesn't have to be duplicated by what you've experienced, but rather to look at what you've experienced and then allow that to transform how you perceive it. This is where I get kind of, I'm excited about the idea of the sun representing the ego, the moon being in between, and then in this case, this eclipse having the earth represent our rising sign. Pluto, that naturally rules Scorpio, was transiting it between 1983 and 1995. The 0 to 4 degree and this could be, retrogrades. And I did this loosely because everybody has their own personal chart. So the dates are a little bit, I think they're okay, but they maybe give me a little wiggle room. Between November 1983 and January 1985, Pluto was transiting into Scorpio between 0 and 4 degrees. It would go through retrogrades. This was the ruler of the house in the house. This is really this is a powerful dynamic, and it really affects those born between, as I said, 1983 and 1995. Some of us call them millennials. This is where we see the transformation from a rigidity to exploring our sexual identities, exploring our sexual desires, wants, and needs. This generation is dipping into the taboo subjects, the occult, the psychology that's buried underneath, the emotional body buried underneath, the ideas of power and control and where they really come from. And this generation is part of the souls moving forward to take what imbalance has been hidden, what has been dominant in not a win-win situation, where where we have either exerted dominance out of balance, or we have been the recipient of giving our power up out of balance. And this is where I believe we have this opportunity or this period of time between the people that are experiencing between 1983 and 1985 will experience this eclipse probably more intensely because they are going to be very aware and making choices and displaying determination and resilience in the face of old structures that are out of balance. Pluto is the planet that has vacillated between astronomers trying to decide if it's a real planet or a dwarf planet, and it's gone back and forth. I'm pretty sure right now it's considered a planet. I didn't check that particular thing, but what I was starting to think about is Pluto also, while being the smallest planet, it has that heart that you can see from space, where there is activity beneath the surface, tumultuous, a churning that makes it appear to be like this white heart from space. Now, if we think about white representing light, representing maybe higher vibrational experiences, then as we dig deeper into our heart, and the heart that may reflect subjects that in previous generations have been taboo, have been, not acceptable, and giving ourselves an opportunity to transcend that and bring that to the surface. I think this is super powerful. It's also the age where we started to see the media represent mediumship and energy. I can't help but think of people like Caesar Milan, talking about energy going through the leash with the animals, and people like John Edward and Teresa Caputo and Tyler Henry. And while these people were starting to incarnate, or were incarnated and becoming of a certain age to bring this forth. So this is very exciting, this idea of transcendence, of being more powerful in a balanced way than we give ourselves credit for. I always think of the axis between Scorpio and Taurus as Taurus exploring my skills and my voice, and what I've learned as a result of what I've experienced about myself and how I was initially nurtured in the beginning of my physical experience. And, that can be good or bad. And sometimes that's all a perception. It's a psychology underneath, meaning some people come in with great affluence and resources, but they're not really given the privilege of their own self-expression. And Taurus, representing the second house, to me, starts the process of self-expression with the voice, and with me using my skills to make money, rather than going up to Scorpio, where I've commingled my resources and my life essentially with another. All right. And the final outer planet is Uranus. Now, Uranus is exalted in Scorpio, and those that were born between 1975 and 1981 have Uranus in Scorpio, and those that Uranus was at 0 to 4 degrees Scorpio between September 1975 and September 1976. So this was where we started to see a real stoking and a real interest in New Age phenomenon, in studying what had been called occult practices, innovating, seeing technology advance in scorpionic-like ways, developing technology where we could go out into space and explore space, also technology that can spy on other people. We know that Scorpio kind of rules things that are hidden underneath, hidden powers. We can see with Uranus and Scorpio, we see a liberation and a sexual awareness, a liberation of our sexual desires, appetites, and identities. And I also think this is where we're charmed a bit. I think Scorpio is a very charming sign. And while the planet Uranus is shocking and electric and sometimes unnerving, there's a charm associated to it with Scorpio. So I think if you are one of the people that are born during these periods of time where you have these outer planets in your chart at between 0 and 4 degrees Scorpio, and you might, because it's at 2 degrees. So I'm keeping the eclipse is at 2 degrees. So I'm keeping a 2-degree orb on either side of the actual eclipse, because again, we have Venus at 2 degrees. So this is going to really represent, what do I feel about myself? How do I make my money? Venus co-rules the opposite sign of Scorpio, Taurus. So this is super powerful. Now let's go into, now I'm going to talk about your rising sign. I'm going to go by rising sign and what house will this eclipse fall into. This is where the transformation will reveal itself, or the culmination of something that's been brewing underneath for quite some time. I kind of laugh sometimes because when I think of Uranus and some of these, what we call unavoidable or events that we could not foresee, sometimes it feels like there's an inner knowing of choices. We may not know the situations that will transpire to propel us into those choices, but we can feel the choices coming. And I think sometimes the more authentic we are in the onset of that knowing, the less jarring and traumatic the transformation has to be. That's where I want to put it. So Aries, this eclipse is going to happen for you in your 8th house. Your 8th house is, as we know, we just got done talking a lot about the 8th house of Scorpio, ruling other people's money, ruling sex, ruling power and control. And I can't help but think about your ruling planet Mars being the co-ruler of Scorpio. I think this is a real opportunity to investigate your engaging energies, to, rather than assert yourself power and control in an aggressive or assertive way, or blunt or rude or even warlike, allowing yourself to really think about how you would respond to somebody who has power and control over you. And when you have that realization, I think it gives you an opportunity to create a win-win, which is where the transformation comes in, and you allow yourself to assert yourself in a brave, courageous, heroic manner. Taurus. Scorpio is your 7th house of partnerships. You're being offered an opportunity to really dig deep about, are you asserting yourself in your partnerships in a way, you know, because here we see a fixed access. Scorpio in the 1st house, Taurus in the 7th house. So sometimes people don't want to change their minds. And most of the time, what I find on this access is that until they are validated for their point of view, for what they know underneath the surface, Taurus being for what it has to speak, for its skills, for its value, there's a stubbornness not to move forward. So I think with Taurus, this is an opportunity within your house of partnerships. Then this is not just intimate partnerships. This is professional partnerships. These are contractual partnerships. It's also the 7th house of diplomacy, peace and harmony, and creating balance and a win-win situation. So I feel as if this Scorpio new moon partial solar eclipse has an opportunity for you to kind of go into the idea of how you make your resources, how you feel about your resources. Because again, we've got Venus sitting right at the exact degree of this eclipse. And this is the first eclipse of 2. The next one will be in Taurus. So this will be in your 1st house, so that we'll see it flip. So I want to offer this as an opportunity over the next 6 months, rather than to judge or criticize yourself, or to be regretful that you have not been aware of something that was sitting underneath the surface and how you are operating, allowing yourself the privilege and the grace to go through this transformation, to lovingly and with balance assert yourself in your relationships with a voice that is aware of how it lands on the other party, the other person, whatever this 7th house partnerships reflects for you. Gemini. Scorpio is your 6th house of work, of service, of health, of pets, of enslavement. And we say that because most humans are enslaved to their job, either as the employer or the employee. So I think this is an opportunity to really dig deep into how you would like that to look, and also to look at your personal habits, your own. And I want to offer it this way because Scorpio is such a psychological sign. So I'm not really looking for you to explore your physical habits. Oh, I eat too many potato chips, or I drink too much, or I smoke too much, but rather what's the psychology behind those habits? And do those habits really serve and represent you in your new evolved version? And then giving yourself grace as you implement this sort of Geminian uh, contemplation, weighing of perceptions moving forward. When I tried to quit, I used to smoke cigarettes, and in my early 40s, I kind of tried to stop. I don't think I tried very hard, but as I started to creep towards 50, and I was becoming more authentic in my work, more authentic in my service to others, I wanted to represent the self-love that I was asking others to seek within themselves. So I didn't quit smoking until I started to equate that with the idea that it did not represent the self-love that I was trying to nurture and foster within myself. And the psychology of my smoking helped me take the actions and adopt an attitude that helped me overcome that. Because at some point I had to take the patches off and just fly solo and decide whether or not I was going to succumb to an old habit. And why did I have that habit? So Gemini, I think this is an opportunity to dig deep as to either why do you stay in your job if you don't like it? Why do you stay addicted to certain habits or powerless over certain habits in your health, or in your mental health as well? You know, are you purporting a certain amount of me time? You know, if you're being a little bit overly of service, there's a lack of balance that erode the other areas of that house. All right, Cancer. This is your fifth house. Scorpio is your fifth house of children, of self-expression, meaning what do I like to express myself? It's the house of the performer. It's the house of the clown. It's the house of the children. It's the house of games and hobbies and entertainment. So I think that this is an opportunity for you to dig deep into how do you, I kind of want to go to the idea of Scorpio representing the unseen, the occult, astrology, mediumship, the exploration of I want to say ritual, but I think of it like Native Americans honoring the earth, honoring, you know, what Father God has created and what has been brought forth, not about putting spells on people, because I feel as if this is an opportunity for you to take already your Cancerian rising sign that's already predisposed to be intuitive, and now couple that with your own wants and desires and how that can positively affect change in your life and transform you. And I believe that to be in a way that really becomes the powerful co-creator, because the fifth house is a house of a couple things. It's a house of leadership. It's a house that rules the heart and courage. It's also a house that's a Dharma house, which it presents reward for past lives and good deeds done in those past lives. And if we think about Scorpio representing the dead and mediumship, there could be the potential that you're surrendering your because the nurturing part of you, the home and the hearth, may not align initially to the exploration of these topics, and yet you could very much represent in a strong way that these are not really taboo, but have been represented in such a way because we have lived in a world that purported haves and have-nots. And when we embrace the idea that we are powerful co-creators in our life, then there's nothing stopping us from having everything we want. Okay, now let's go on to Leo. Scorpio is your fourth house, the house of home, the house of family, the house of your history. And when we look at this being at the Venusian degree, 2 degrees, I believe that this is also an opportunity to really, within your own home life, if there was some sort of challenging dynamics, or if there was some quote unquote negativity or darkness that you experienced, now is an opportunity to integrate this You know, I don't particularly appreciate my, well, I shouldn't say that. I do have an appreciation as I've aged, but when I review and look back on my home, my childhood, the nurturing I received from my mother, it wasn't really there. Well, that's putting it very nicely. I have a lot of resentment. I'm an Aries rising. So an opportunity to transform resentment into wisdom, an opportunity to allow your Leo heart to have the courage to see that if your soul experienced something challenging, it was so you could transcend that and then be a leader to really playing to what's important to you, to allowing for good things in your life, romance and joy. And there is, you know, very little in Leo energy that is, to me, oppressive. It's really the opposite. And it's the view of the human being slightly envious that makes us pick on you and say, you're conceited, you're full of yourself. Oh, Leo comes in the room and sucks up all the air. It's because the rest of us are diminishing ourselves. We could all be lights, and, you know, we may not have as much impact if they're, you know, a light in a room full of stadiums, or in a stadium full of lights doesn't make a big impact. But again, I really feel like the transformation of your fourth house experience up until now is you going from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And the more you're willing to have the courage, Leo rules the spine, the courage, Leo rules the heart, love, the more you have an opportunity to integrate that those experiences are what propelled you into that self-expression, into what is important to you in the way of making sure your life is joyful and happy, because really that's what every human wants. All right, Virgo, this is in your third house. Scorpio rising, Virgo is your third house. Yes. Sometimes I throw myself off when I think about this. Anyway, third house naturally rules thinking. Mercury rules Virgo. Virgo rules process in thinking. So I think this is an opportunity to dig deep into how you apply process. And because there's also this idea of Virgo being of service. And while you have, you know, Scorpio is a commingling of other people's money, of other people's power, of sex. Virgo represents giving up of my energy for the greater good, for somebody else's endeavor. So there's an interesting synergy between these two houses. So I think this is an opportunity to really start to think about taking where you may have been dutiful to a point of imbalance, where you may have depended on a process or on a job or on a dynamic that now requires you to dig deeper into how you're thinking and what your psychology is, and where you are more powerful than you have maybe given yourself permission to be. Because I can't help but think of Virgo as thinking of others, you know, thinking of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, but sometimes the needs of the few represent the opportunities for the many to co-create, to implement. So Virgo, I think this is going to be an opportunity to look about the deeper psychology of your thinking, your speaking, your teaching, and I mean what you're teaching others through your thinking and speaking. Because this is the thing also about Virgo, because I love Virgos in many ways, because when I've had Virgos and I've worked with them, they play to my Saturn in Capricorn, because I work hard, they work hard. I feel like we're working together. And when a Virgo is by themselves, they may be the only one pulling the majority of the weight. And now it's time for you to assess if that's still working for you. Allow the imbalance to come to the surface so that it can be transmuted. Libra, Scorpio is your second house. This is very powerful for me because Libra naturally represents cooperation and balance and harmony. And one of the challenging sides is confronting things that are unpleasant. And Scorpio can represent many things that are unpleasant. So I think this is an opportunity, being your second house, this being in the second degree. So we're going to look at this right on the cusp of your first house and second house, and how you allow yourself to be as important as your partnerships. Libra naturally represents partnership. The second house represents my family history, and it represents Scorpio's the psychology beneath my family history. And is that psychology allowing me the privilege of expressing my skills, my voice, my thoughts, because my thoughts come out of my mouth. So I think this is important. And I also think because Libra represents marriage, it's an opportunity to represent partnerships. And if there is balanced energy within them. And then if for some reason there is imbalance, allowing yourself to connect with the ideas that harmony and peace and almost an idealistic version of this relationship can take forth. I kind of feel like this is an opportunity for Libra to take the more quote unquote taboo and occult things about the Scorpio energy and dig deep into a commingling with spirit, to look at it as, because I don't really see it as the occult. I don't see it as black magic, quote unquote, dark magic, putting an evil energy towards something, as much as it's putting a concentrated focus that aligns us. And that alignment allows us to attract that dynamic into our life. And then the big key is to allow that to flourish and grow, because the default for Libra could be to go back to the history, and if it is starting to transform, not believe the transformation. So I really think this is an important metamorphosis for Libra, to feel their power and at the same time be a cooperative energy within that power. Scorpio, this is in your first house of self. This is straight up going to be all about you and the permissions you give yourself and how you allow yourself to thrive. The first thing I kind of went to was Scorpio allowing themselves the ability to make money without feeling the need to have that money define me. I don't know why I'm going to say that, but I think it's because this eclipse is at the second degree, which is the Venusian degree, which represents self-made money. And here we are in the first house of Scorpio, and a whole opportunity to transform any codependence that you may have. And I think that some of that codependence may not actually be on another person, but in a psychological way, feeling that if there was the commingling of other people's money, if I was in some way in either a sexual relationship with someone would provide safety, or our resources are connected in some way. It could be in a business relationship. And is that truly serving the self? Is it truly serving an evolved version of yourself, or is it serving a deeper, hidden, almost toxic energy that is lived underneath and now wants to bubble up so that it can be transformed? So this is going to be super powerful. And again, I want to emphasize that this is your rising sign. So this is going to be really about you. If you are born in the years of 1956 to 1958, Neptune will be on your ascendant somewhere between 0 and 4 degrees. If you are born between 1983 and 1985, Pluto is 0 to 4 degrees. If it's within that range, because this is a second degree Scorpio eclipse. So these planets are aligning with something that's going on with you, Scorpio. And if you were born between 1975 and 1976, Uranus is going to be floating in that area somewhere. So this is going to be powerful for you as an individual and for the collective that you will, your metamorphosis will represent for them. Okay, I hope that made sense. It does in my head somewhere. Sagittarius, this is your 12th house, Scorpio. And I think this is an opportunity to really dig deep into any places where you have, for the most part, Sagittarius is really looked upon as a benevolent, good energy, very loving and expansive, represents wealth. And it can also represent gluttony and entitlement and a sense of arrogance. And while I don't think that this is what this is about, I do think that there could be desires and hopes and dreams that you have, and maybe even digging deeper into the more occult dynamics of Scorpio, the psychological hidden dynamics of how we manifest, and then using the ideas of astrology. I love the law of attraction. I love doing exercises that allow my focus to sit intentionally somewhere for a while and start to kick in the 12 divine laws of the universe, the law of attraction, the law of allowing, the law of cause and effect, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Sagittarius, this is an opportunity to dig deeper and broaden your beliefs, broaden your power, broaden your feelings of connectedness to that which you cannot see. The 12th house is a very ancestral house, and Scorpio rules death and rebirth. So you may even find this eclipse in some way has you traveling metaphorically, meditation wise, to places you've never been before. And I want to kind of give this little nugget to Sagittarius. Meditation may get very, very intense around this eclipse. And if you decide to endeavor in that, you may receive messages from the other side. I would have a paper and pen by you, and I would very much allow myself to have my eyes sort of at a soft focus, a half mask, and feel like I'm almost taking dictation. I would do this whether they're symbols, whether they're signs, if you hear the lyrics to a song in your head, and allow yourself to just jot it down. It may not make sense at the time, but again, eclipses have a 6-month influence, and this may reveal itself over that period of time. Capricorn, Scorpio is your 11th house, and this is the house of networks, innovation, science. Capricorn, Saturn naturally rules or co-rules the 11th house. And so I believe that this is going to be about implementing what you've been going through in the way of a psychological transformation as Pluto has been transiting your first house. I think that this is about, like, Capricorn represents building and structure and seeing it in the material world. Scorpio represents everything that is not seen in the material world. We have sex behind closed doors. A lot of money deals happen behind closed doors. Criminal behavior happens behind closed doors. So I think we're taking the higher vibrations of the Scorpio energy of implementing the spiritual aspects of it and now bringing it in a structured way into my personal networks, integrating it into my hopes and my dreams. The 11th house is a Upachaya house, which gives reward over time. And so this is also Saturn, rewards over time. That's your, who you are. So I feel as if this is on a deep psychological level, integrating the idea that fear is face everything and rise. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear is empowering yourself as you walk through something and you put it out into the world and it is received in a way that you feel proud of. It transforms. So I think this is about Capricorn seeing their own personal transformation in the material world in a way that feels powerful, feels like it could potentially bring in more resources for you in a way that you created, that you get to be proud of, and is on display for others to see. And I feel a sense of opportunity to congratulate myself as a Capricorn. Aquarius, Scorpio is your 10th house. This is an opportunity to completely transform yourself in the public eye, how you see things. And also, I think there's an opportunity for you to, this Scorpio eclipse may have something to do with you transforming how you make your money in the public eye. You know, you may at one point have been endeavoring something and it was more of a collective. Aquarius rules the 11th house. You may have had a bigger network of people, and now you may go into a smaller network or something that's more focused on just you, or you may hone your professional life. You know, like for me personally, like I've thought about going to various platforms, and I've talked about it and I've entertained doing a podcast. And then I keep kind of defaulting back to just stay on YouTube and be consistent here and build here with what you've learned. So Aquarius, this is what I think, that something may be happening where you're taking your business, professional, public life and starting to be a little bit more transparent as you hone in and own and allow the transformation of the psychological platform with which you previously built your public appearance and or your career. It's a way for you to stand in innovative leadership. Your ruling planet, Uranus, is exalted in Scorpio. So this is a house that's going to be good for you in many ways. It's as you give life to the idea that you're really not alien. You're really not different than other people. What you are is a leader who does not want to fold into the smallness that the human experience sometimes fosters, and rather the expansion, Aquarius, the heading into new territory, going into new technologies, new space, new hopes, new dreams, and knowing you have the ability to build them. Okay. Pisces, Scorpio is your 9th house. And that's this is a total transformation of your spirituality, of your really identifying where you may have given up your power. Pisces is, I think, the most mutable and vulnerable of all the signs. It's 2 fishies. They don't have a shell. They don't have a stinger. They don't have, a lot of things to protect themselves. So they kind of have to swim away when a predator shows up, and Pluto represents predators. So I think that this is an opportunity to see transformation in your belief system, in your spirituality, in your broadening your own personal power, versus having a sense of compassion and a sense of empathy that diminishes you, that is literally like siphoning off your energy. So I think this could be the potential where Pisces starts to see that if you're overly cooperative in a situation, if you're overly loving and compassionate, you're actually serving the darker side of the situation, or the side that creates a repetitive pattern that the human doesn't want to experience. So you may end up realizing that you need to, or you get to remove yourself from energies that are consistently in the cul-de-sac. So let me just be frank. So you know somebody and you love them dearly, but they're always talking about their crappy love life, or that they don't have any money, or if they didn't have bad luck, they wouldn't have any luck. And this eclipse is starting to illuminate to you that the more they say that, the more they experience that thoughts are things, and they come out. Focused thought creates the law, or it kicks in the law of attraction. We go back to the idea of aligning to a vision. We don't always align to a vision that's fun. We can align to a vision that doesn't feel fun, and we then make it very real because we talk about it over and over again. So your awareness of people's alignment and what they attract, that may be where you actually allow yourself permission to distance yourself. You're naturally ruled by the 12th house. So you may, choose to take a more spiritual and ancestral way of looking at this, where compassion comes from understanding that the soul is going through a repetitive pattern, and you're best served not by being overly compassionate or empathetic to the human, but seeing if the soul is struggling, it is struggling to remember the truth of who it is, the powerful co-creator, the one that chose this dynamic, that chose these particular transformational opportunities so that it could start to experience nirvana, bliss, the enjoyment of our own co-creation. So this is a very, very powerful and transformational time on this planet. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you'll get alerted when new content comes out. And please share on any platform you feel would be good for you or that you think works. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, I'm available. My information is below in the description. Thank you again. Join me on Sunday mornings live, 11 a.m. Pacific times for our weekly Traversing the Transits. I'm going to start calling them angel scopes because we're doing angel readings and a tarot card to get advice from Spirit on traversing the transits for the weeks ahead or the week ahead. All right, everybody, I'll see you soon. Oh, and be sure to check the Saturn going direct video too, because that's going to be right before this eclipse new moon opportunity to create new things. All right, everybody, peace out.